So I just finished episode 6. We got the big reveal at the end. I'm going to explain everything that happened in the last 3 episodes. I'm not going to do it chronologically. I'm going to try to explain most important stuff to least important stuff. So I'll start with the reveal, and I'm also going to do all the storylines happening in the normal world. That's not really an accurate term, but I've seen enough people use it that I'm going to use that term. And then I'm going to shift to the Prime world, where we really only get one major storyline there. So what we find out is we have this guy named Walter. Now, he used to have Peter Quayle's job before he was murdered, but it was made to look like a heart attack. Now, he is also gay and was secretly having an affair, and the person he was having an affair with, named Lamar, this is who Aldrich goes to investigate. So this evil, shadowy network, they created a vacancy. That's the term they use. So Peter can get the promotion, have access to all these sensitive documents, and we see in his safe, he has all these sensitive documents. So his wife, who is actually Claire, can sneakily copy these documents from his safe and then pass them off to Alexander Pope, and she's been doing this for many, many years. So the mole, which is just a word for a spy who pretends to work for an organization but really passes information to the other side, the mole, whose code name is Shadow, or that's what everyone's been calling, is actually Claire. And Peter realizes this, so he knows this now, and he realizes this because somehow, and I'm not sure how, but he got this document that was passed and was a leaked document, and he knows that this document has been passed around, and he looks at the document and he realizes, wait a minute, that watermark, that I was the one who put that watermark on because I see the coffee cup, that I see the same watermark, so that means I got the original document, I put a watermark on it, then I put it in my safe. Then my wife went, took the original document, photocopied it with that same watermark, and now that's out floating around in the world. And we do have some questions. So Shadow, this mole, has she always been Peter's wife, or was Peter's wife originally just a normal person and Peter's wife was killed and then Shadow came from the other side, Claire came from the other side and took her place and Peter didn't even notice? So cue the inattentive husband jokes, and Peter is also the one who's sleeping with all these prostitutes, not a coincidence. And in episode 3, we are introduced to Claire's father, and he seems like a pretty significant character, so there's also the question of whether her father is in on it as well. So anyways, Claire is passing this information to Alexander Pope for many years. Emily, coma Emily, the Emily that we know is now in a coma, she finds out about this and she tells Howard Prime on the other side, hey, I know someone is leaking these documents. It's within our organization here. So she finds out, and shortly thereafter, she gets hit by a car. Now, there's the theory that Emily who's in the coma is actually the Emily from the Prime side. So what happened was Emily Prime, who was married to Howard Prime over on the Prime side, she, in order to better track whoever was the leaker, or in order to, better figure out who was the leaker, she actually came over, and Emily, who was originally Howard's Emily, normal Howard's Emily, agreed to switch places. And then what happens is Howard Prime didn't know about this. Howard Prime finds out that his Emily over on this side is no longer Emily Prime, is no longer his Emily, it's the Emily from the normal side. So he gets mad, and that's why they divorce. Now, that is not confirmed at all, it's just speculation. I think it's very interesting because that would imply that right now on the Prime side, we have normal Howard and normal Emily, and they're together, and Emily knows it, but Howard doesn't, so it creates just a very interesting dynamic there, where Howard has the love of his life, who he thinks is trapped in this coma. He has her back, and he's hanging out with her. He just doesn't realize it yet. So anyways, what is this evil network? So it's called the Indigo program. They use that word, and it involves Claude Lambert, the ambassador, remember him, Alexander Pope, Claire, Baldwin. So basically, Baldwin is an assassin, and she is killing certain members on the normal side, and then they bring in their doubles. So basically, they find these people on the Prime side, they raise them in these special schools to be sleeper agents, then they sneak them over to the normal side. Baldwin goes, or another assassin goes and kills the real person, and then they just sneak in and take their place without anyone being the wiser. And we actually see one of these sleeper agents walking around on the normal side, and then he comes back and says it's filthy, they all deserve to die. It's unclear why, whether he's a religious fanatic or whether they're so poor on the other side and it's the excess that he's disgusted by. But anyways, so Claire is the boss of Baldwin in some sense, and she gave Baldwin all these people that Baldwin was supposed to kill. Now, after Baldwin got caught, Baldwin wants to keep working with Claire and finish the contracts and kill all these people. Claire, at the very least, seems to say, no, you're not doing any more killing. At worst, Claire has actually set up Baldwin to die, and it seems somebody in the organization, this evil organization, has turned on Baldwin and now wants her dead. And in this last episode, we see on TV the news talking about this murder and a woman in her 20s, a white woman in her 20s leaving the scene. So that's the person that Baldwin killed, who was this assassin trying to kill Baldwin, but Baldwin outmaneuvered him and actually killed this person that was trying to kill her. Now Baldwin is starting this budding romance with someone named Greta or Gretchen, I forget. Anyway, she's actually from Babylon Berlin, this new show I just saw. It's just funny because they're in Berlin, so that's kind of a coincidence. And then also her best friend on Babylon Berlin is named Greta, and I think she's named Greta on this, so it's just funny coincidences. And then some other things that are less important, and Walter Prime has this source who is actually Defector from the Prime side and has been living on the normal side. Now Howard and Peter go to visit him and talk with him, and then Heinrich, who's the Defector, ends up dying. Now this is only important because it reveals that either Peter or someone close to Peter who has access to his information and knowledge is the Defector, because only Howard and Peter went and know about this guy. So when he winds up dead, all the suspicion is now on Howard or Peter, one of the two of them. And it's interesting, Howard in some ways actually kind of caused his friend's death. There was really no reason for him to take Peter with him, and in doing so it wasn't intentional, but he did contribute to his friend's death. So maybe when he's yelling at Peter, he's actually kind of wants to be yelling at himself because it was kind of his fault. And then we have another Defector, similar situation, that Ulrich goes and talks to. This is Alice. Again, she's not particularly important except that she confirms that yes, there is in fact a mole. She's having this weird three-way with her double, so they look like twins and they're very similar, and then a third guy living the dream. And then last storyline, so there's a guy named Andre that Howard plays. I forget the name of the game, I'll put a photo behind me, every morning. And Andre claims that his sister or some relative is in the hospital and he was visiting her, and then he just bumps into Howard, who happens to be visiting Emily, so they strike up this friendship, and now they play this game every morning together. When Howard Prime switches places with Howard and he plays this game, he's suspicious of Andre, and he follows Andre to the hospital, and then he sees that Andre writes in the visiting log that he's actually visiting Emily, not this mystery relative that just happens to be also in the same hospital. So then he tracks him down to his house, and he finds out that Andre and Emily were having an affair. And finally, we can move over to the Prime side. So normal Howard is over there having switched places with Howard Prime. He's starting to build a relationship with his daughter, Anna, that Emily seems a little wary about, because obviously she knows that it's only temporary. Eventually Howard's going to go back to the normal side, and then Anna's going to be even more hurt. Now Emily Prime and Howard, they team up to try to track down this courier, Edgar Brandt, and they get an address from this courier. They eventually link up also with Ian, who's Emily Prime's boyfriend. Him and Howard Prime don't get along at all, so now him and Howard, who he thinks is Howard Prime, they're not getting along. But anyways, they all team up, they go to this address, and then we get this weird image of this house being burned. I'm not quite sure how to interpret it, but anyways, it's implied that the courier, Edgar Brandt, and this house, they pass messages to the embassy, I think. Remember Claude Lambert? So they pass messages to him, and this is how this big network, they're all able to communicate together. So I'm going to end the video there because it's getting long. If that big reveal of Claire went over your head or didn't hit as hard as it might have, I don't think it's your fault. I'm going to show pictures of most of the times we've seen Claire. I've tried to screenshot it, and every time you see her, it's comical. Her face is just completely shrouded in darkness. I get it goes with this whole vibe and ambiance they're trying to set up, but it does make it confusing. But hopefully this video helped explain some things. If you have any questions, definitely comment. I do try to read my comment sections. I don't get that many, so I can definitely read comments. So yeah, comment, and then I'll either address it in a comment or try to in future videos explain it or go into more depth.